Hey, what's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. It is time to do the 2014 end of the year lists. So I'll jump right into this one and then I'll move up to the favourites of 2014 with the honourable mentions. It's going to be split into two parts, by the way. So this is not fact, it is opinion. This is, in my eyes, the top 5 disappointments / worst albums of 2014. So, let me know what you guys think of these albums. Tell me if you like them or not. And let's just jump right into it. Number 5, Opeth, Pale Communion. Pale Communion, to me, is the most difficult album for me to enjoy throughout the entire year. And I do like Opeth a lot. Their previous albums are amazing, with fantastic production and some really strong atmosphere and amazing melodies from their heavy, punishing melodic death metal sound. But now Opeth have changed their sound into something more of a progressive rock type of atmosphere. And Pale Communion, for me, is not the same direction and sound that I do love from Opeth. I respect the new direction and changes and all, but it's just not the same for me. Production-wise is amazing. At some points, musically, does sound really great, but to fit them all together as songs, I cannot get into what's going on, and that just really saddens me. And progressive rock is one of my favourite genres of all time. So this album is just a really big package of mediocrity from beginning to end, and the vocals as well just don't bring enough power or emotion to me. I just wish they could have been done more better. And you know, I would really stick to their previous releases that have the sound, tone, and the complex songwriting that I love from these guys. Number 4 is Alcest, Shelter. Alcest, with their previous albums, do have some amazing and phenomenal sounds of shoegazing black metal type of sound. Their second album is a near perfect release. It's their best album in my opinion. But what we've got, in my opinion, Shelter is something very similar like Pale Communion. Some of the songs on this album do sound quite repetitive, and it's just not the sound for me for their new style and sound. To me, the album is just not my cup of tea at all. Vocal-wise is amazing. Production is top-notch. The guitar sound does have a really sweet, clean, awesome tone to it, but as songs, most of these songs on this album just for me don't bring enough power or emotion with the atmosphere that I did love from Alcest, and I just cannot really dig it. It's another really hit or miss album for me. Number 3 is quite gonna be a surprise for you guys. Number 3 is Wu-Tang Clan, A Better Tomorrow. A Better Tomorrow, to me, is a really big lackluster for my own eyes, and what I really do miss, I love the Wu-Tang Clan. Their debut is a big hip-hop classic, one of my favourite albums of all time, and I do love how the guys can really work and communicate together with powerful lyrics that do have meaning, sometimes violent and aggressive, and the beats have a really great punch and full of catchiness to it. And from what I've been hearing on this album, it just doesn't capture the things that I did love from Wu-Tang Clan. In my opinion, the beats do sound really hit or miss. They're not too bad though. Some of the lyrics just don't really sound as descriptive or as perfect like the guys did from their previous albums. And most of the time, for me, it's just one of these albums to me that is done by another group. And I wouldn't really classify this as a fully completed album of Wu-Tang Clan. I mean, if they enjoy it a lot, fair play, no problem with that at all. I respect them for that, but it's not the Wu-Tang Clan sound that I love. And it's just a really big letdown for me. Number 2, Obituary, Inked in Blood. Inked in Blood, to me, just does not sound like a death metal album at all. It sounds like more of a hardcore groove type of metal album. The songs just don't really capture my expectations of loving their sound like their more previous roots that do have the really violent, gritty, heavy as hell, aggressive, old school death metal sound. And the vocals as well just don't really bring the aggression better on this album at all. The vocals don't bring the really strong, powerful growls like the guys have did from their previous albums. I mean, you know, their new sound for me on this album just feels really quite bland. And I know I've said previous releases quite a lot in this video, but their previous efforts are more better than these albums that I've mentioned in this list, in my opinion. So Inked in Blood is, in my opinion, the most disappointing so-called death metal album of 2014. Really bland songwriting, repetition on some tracks, and it's just not the same, and it just feels like a really big, poorly done album. And we've come to number 1, the biggest disappointment and worst album of 2014, In Flames' Siren Charms. Siren Charms is really, really bad stuff, and it's just not as intriguing, punchy, heavy, and aggressive, and it's just not the same. The vocals don't bring emotion at all, and the lyrics are really poor, and the songwriting feels quite rushed, and it just sounds boring. And their previous sound of melodic death metal is amazing. The Jester Race, one of my favourites of all time. Horrorcore, fantastic. I do like Reroute to Remain, and, you know, Colony, Clayman, and I know they've gone to a softer, mature sound from their previous albums of Sounds of a Playground Fading and A Sense of Purpose, but to me, Siren Charms is a really soggy bag of just awful, boring, repetitive, bland stuff all the way through. It's a terrible, awful album. Just avoid it. I would stick to The Jester Race and Horrorcore because I think they're my personal favourites from In Flames, but I would listen to The Jester Race the most. So that is the type of In Flames that I love, from the 90s era, that is. So that is it, guys. That is the top 5 disappointments and worst albums of 2014. Let me know what you guys think of them in the comments, and like I said, I will jump right up to my favourites of 2014. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, keep it metal.